So this is a video showing 5 of what I thought were the complete most blown plays by the refs in the game, both whether it was a blown play with no call or they completely gave it to the Bears. That completely changed the outcome of this game for the Bucs. While the Bucs did make mistakes in this game, it shouldn't have even remotely been close if the refs had made it a fair game. So this first play is going to happen in the first quarter. Bucs are up 3-0. Watch what happens with this Ronald Jones play.
Much production as he has had, but yeah, that's a nice advantage for him over really any other corner in football.
Working against Fuller up at the top. Brady over the middle, pass is caught, and now they say incomplete.
So they're ruling it incomplete. Now, obviously, to everybody watching the game, you'd think that it's a catch, or at least, should be called a catch and didn't review it if it's not. But they're going to call it incomplete here, which is going to cause Arians to bring out the challenge flag.
Ball must have touched the ground as Jones.
This is what we see later in the replay when it finally comes.
Really. I mean, they've got an abundance of riches in Tampa Bay at the skill position. What they don't have is that guy right there out of the backfield. Now, did he catch it? Because if he did, he was not touched.
Whoa,
that's a catch in my book.
Yeah.
I like the announcer's reaction here, like realizing that this is a catch and that they blew it incomplete at first instead of just calling it a catch and then reviewing it as a score to make sure that he did indeed catch it, which they would have saw that he did anyway. So it's going to cause Arians to bring out the challenge flag.
And Arians just threw the flag.
Yeah, a catch and a touchdown because he was not touched. It's a good challenge.
So keep in mind that he caught it, was not touched, and rolled into the end zone. This should be a touchdown when they review it, but watch what happens when they do wind up reviewing it.
This one should have been easier than what he made it look, but it looks like it's a catch and a touchdown, Joe.
Touchdown.
After the commercial break.
But they put the ball at the 2 because they blew the play dead and called it incomplete.
So what Joe Buck explains there is that this should have been a touchdown because he caught it, rolled into the end zone, wasn't touched. But because they blew the play dead, because they're idiots, the ball is now on the 2. This is going to bring up a third goal. Now, the Bucs do wind up completing it right here to Evans. But keep in mind that if they weren't to have completed that, it would have brought up a 4th and 2. Arians probably would have kicked the field goal, and it would have only been 6-0 when it wound up being 10-0. So they wound up getting the touchdown, and it didn't have that big of an impact. But just this is the start of a really just lopsided game for the refs here. Okay, so this next play comes in on a 3rd and 12. This is going to be a line penalty, so it's going to be a matter of 5 yards. So this could either go to 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 19. If it's a 3rd and 19, what they're likely going to do is just get some yards back to punt it away. If it's a 3rd and 7, it's going to likely be a manageable 3rd down to keep the drive going. So this is a huge penalty here. Watch what happens.
History with those 4.
Flag should have stopped it as there was movement up.
Now, if you're watching the game, you can kind of take a stab at it here, which side you thought it was. I think, and the announcers think, it was obviously the offensive line false start.
Front.
Let's see what the refs call.
See who it goes against. Like the right guard was rocking back, but was somebody coming across early.
Neutral zone infraction, defense number 58, 5-yard penalty, still.
So despite the announcer calling that the guard was rocking back, they're going to call it a neutral zone infraction and go from 3rd and 12 to 3rd and 7 when it should be 3rd and 19. Let's see what the replay has to say.
3rd down.
The answer is Shaq Barrett.
Well, Shaq Barrett, not surprised by this.
Watch Effetti,
Here he is.
I don't know. I mean, Effetti, the right guard, watch 74 moving back, but they called it against Barrett.
Yeah, it sure looked like Effetti was the one who initiated that movement. The Bears get one.
So he literally just said the Bears got one. Yeah, so Effetti initiated that movement. That was a clear false start. I'm just baffled that the refs missed that. So again, that goes from what should have been a 3rd and 19 to a 3rd and 7, and a very manageable play. Watch what happens here.
Blitz. Somehow Foles gets it to Montgomery.
So like I said, it would have been 3rd and 19. They likely would not have converted on a 3rd and 19. They would have just did a little pass play, maybe a screen, just to get some yards back so that they can punt a little bit further, and that would have ended the drive. But what happens here is that on a manageable 3rd and 7, they get the first down. This is later going to lead to a touchdown, and instead of being 13-0, it's going to be 13-7. Bears are going to get some momentum instead of what would have been a penalty ending, a penalty drive ending essentially, and what would have led to the Bucs getting the ball back again with 13-0 on the board. This next one to me was a play that that flew a little bit under the radar, but watch the matchup down low here between Carlton and Robinson.
It's easier to get him the ball that way as opposed to trying to throw it to him. They can just turn around and hand it to him. They got to get some movement up front.
Foles keeps, throws, has Robinson for a first.
So Carlton gets up and immediately looks for the flag. Does not get a flag. Let's see what happens.
He beat Davis to the inside and gets 13 yards.
Allen Robinson, one of those guys.
So you just saw an obvious push off there. Now, the commentators didn't really touch up upon it, which is why I think this went a little bit under the radar. But to me, that's just an obvious push off, and it's only a 2nd and 7. This wasn't a huge major penalty call or anything, or at least a missed call. But the fact that it would have brought up a 3rd and 7, and the Bears at this point in the night were like terrible on 3rd down percentages. So it likely would have caused them to have to wind up going for the field goal if they had missed that. But this is going to help lead to that touchdown.
He's looking for a contract.
All right, so this next call comes in on a 1st and 30. Now, keep in mind, 1st and 30, the Bucs, they committed a few penalties here that got them to this 1st and 30. But this next one to me is super controversial. So if they're on the 1st and 30, they're going to throw it out to Mickens here. It's going to give them about an 11-yard gain. Watch what happens.
Left tackle.
Pass is caught by Mickens. Does a hurdle.
So at this point, it's going to be about a 2nd and 19. They're likely not going to convert the first down on this series, but what they can do on a 2nd and 19 with the Bears who are going to play deep is push up a little bit to get some yards back and try to work their way into field goal range at the very least. I mean, from this point right here, if they can get up 10 yards in the next 2 plays, they can easily go for a field goal and make it 19-14. But watch what happens here on the penalty.
And takes it inside the 45, gets some of that penalty yardage back, gets 11.
Well, now Ryan Jensen, he's into it with someone down there, and they threw the flag on. I don't know who they called it on, but Jensen came up at the end of the play and headbutted someone. Like I said, the Bucs came into this game as the 3rd most penalized team in football, and the Bears were the 5th most penalized.
After the play was over, personal foul, offense number 66.
So they're going to call a personal foul on 66. Now, keep in mind, this is a 15-yard penalty after a play, so they're going to move that back. So that was an 11-yard gain, minus 15. That's going to make it a 34 yards until the first down. Now, you tell me if this is worth 15.
15-yard penalty, the down.
So defensive line
takes a while.
Of the Buccaneers. He got hit by his teammate. I think that was Wirfs. And then Jensen.
That was a 15-yard penalty? Really? Can we see that again?
His teammate. I think that was Wirfs. And then Jensen comes down and...
He's even getting a shove from the defender. But no, they're going to call that a 15 on him when literally they go in head and head at each other. And then he gets a shove from the defender and they're going to call that a 15 on him. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, it's going to take them out of an opportunity to get into field goal range, which should not have been that hard on a 2nd and 19 when all they have to do is gain 10 in the next 2 plays. Because the Bears are definitely going to play deep and guard that first down line, and they could have easily gone up 19-14, making, this game is a field goal battle, so it's going to take 2 field goals for the Bears to get back in it. But what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to do anything on this drive. Now, this next play comes on a critical 3rd and 2. Now, they're still down 2 points, extremely close here. And again, in a game that's a battle of field goals, this is super critical here. So if they blow this play, it's going to be a 4th and 2. They're going to have to punt because they're not in field goal range, and they're definitely not going to go for it at this point.
I thought he might work out Robinson against Carlton Davis, who was up in press, but at least they got this to a reasonable 3rd down. Now can they convert?
Patterson in the backfield. They've thrown to him. Out of the backfield. Here's Robinson. And
so the flag comes in now in real time. It may have looked like a penalty, but let's get a closer look at what happened. Again, if they convert this, they can keep the drive going. But if the Bucs stop them here, it's going to bring up a 4th and 2, and they're likely going to have to punt it away.
Flags.
Yeah, that throw wasn't even close. You could almost say it wasn't even catchable.
Wasn't even close, wasn't even catchable.
3 flags fly. Davis covering Robinson.
But it was so underthrown to Robinson that, Carlton Davis runs right into him.
So he just explains it again. He's going to continue explaining on why this is just a complete BS penalty. I'm just going to let him take it away.
Defense number 24. Ball is placed in the spot of the foul. First down for the Bears.
Nick Foles just really tried floating that in the air. He had no real chance. I mean, he was going to have to come back, drive on that pretty hard to get back to the ball. But, that's hard on a defensive back like that when it's that underthrown. The receiver sees it, you don't, and invariably you have the collision and the pass interference and first down.
Hey, go fans!
So Aikman just explained it like that just should not have been a penalty. It's just underthrown. It's not catchable. But that's going to go from, again, what should have been a punt to now a 1st and 10. And by the end of this drive, they're going to kick a field goal that takes them up 17-16. So again, another critical moment. All right, so the final and arguably most just controversial, just terrible call comes in on this 3rd and 19. So again, the Bears deep in their own territory. It's going to be 3rd and long. If the Bucs get them here, it's going to bring up 4th and 19. What they're likely going to have to do is punt the ball away and hope that they get it back, even though they're down 2 points. But watch what happens here.
Side not taking the cheese, and it's also then with Golston, who's had a good night tonight as well.
Brings up 3rd and 19. Foles for Ginn.
So at this point, the Bucs do what they need to do on defense on a 3rd and 19, and they defend the play successfully. So at that point, it should be 4th and 19. Bears are likely going to have to punt it away, give it back to the Bucs, and hope that they get it back with enough time on the clock, and the Bucs don't score.
And there is a flag down, but it's back in the area where Foles let it go. Pressure by Shaq Barrett. And the Buccaneers think this is against the Bears.
I thought they were going to call it on Shaq Barrett.
From the passer, defense number 58. 15-yard penalty, first down.
They get Barrett.
So they call roughing the passer on Barrett. Now, earlier in this game, there was a call on Vaughn when he got plowed, and he wound up popping up the fumble. They called it. They put a flag down for calling a hit. They reviewed it, and it was a clean hit, so they picked the flag up, and I'll have to agree, it was a good hit. That was a clean play, and the Bears got the fumble off of it. However, this was pretty much the same exact hit, but they're going to call it
for roughing the passer, which gives Chicago a first down.
I guess they're going to.
Very, very similar hit from the Vaughn hit, and the fact that it's inconsistent makes that one even more BS. But look what Aikman says.
Say that he came in with his helmet, helmet to helmet. But I think I don't like the call at all. I think it's terrible. What do you think, Mike?
So he doesn't like the call. He thinks it's terrible. Let's bring in Mike Ferreira, the rules expert, to see what he has to say.
Well, to me, Troy, it's one of those where you see as a referee he's coming in high, but when we get the opportunity to see it here, to me, the helmet contact is incidental. It is more shoulder to shoulder, and I don't like that as a foul.
So the rules expert just said that he doesn't like that as a foul, and yet here we are on the field with refs that just completely blew the call. So again, what would have been a 4th and 19 is now a 1st and 10. And if you didn't think that the refs already bailed out the Bears from enough drives and gotten them points on those drives, this drive, again, which should have been a 4th and 19, is going to take them all the way down the field, and they're going to score what would have been what wound up being the game-winning field goal, and only giving the Bucs 36 seconds left on offense to go down the field. So another huge blown call by the refs. That's all I have to say. This game was just complete BS. The Bucs made mistakes, but they should have won by a landslide. But the refs made this a complete lopsided game.